What's up, guys? Welcome. We are looking at the 2012 Chevy Corvette today in this beautiful red color, and we are looking at the Grand Sport, as you can see here by these vents. These vents are there to help cool down the brakes. You can see that is the Grand Sport very clearly, and it gets the wider body here, some performance upgrades. It is a throwback to the Grand Sport program that was supposed to be a racer in Le Mans. In 1963, that program ended up getting scrapped, and only a handful of actual Grand Sports were created, but they brought this back. This one with the manual transmission. You also get the dry sump oil system. This LS3 is hand built. Now that dry sump oil system is basically, it's for performance cars, and among other things, it allows you to have a lower oil pan, shallower oil pan, mount the engine lower, get better lower center of gravity, and it also helps prevent starvation, oil starvation on extended curves. Other than that, this is, of course, a V8, and it is a 6.2 liter V8. And this one, it produces 430 horsepower standard. This one has the NPP, which is the louder exhaust, which also gives you a bump of 6 horsepower back here. Now, that looking back here, we've got a nice big trunk with the Targa top in there. The Targa top's taking up the space, but you can see that there is actually quite a bit of room back here. So let's go ahead and take this guy for a spin. Right, let's go ahead and hop inside. And we'll start it up and get that nice sound that comes along with that beautiful V8. Because this one has the 2LT package, you do get a few additional things, some creature comforts here. Even though this is a more performance-oriented model, it still has a few feature comforts with the Bose sound system. You got navigation, which is nice, USB port, and heads-up display, and Bluetooth connectivity. Now, as with any infotainment system, something like this, especially a 2012, it's going to get dated very, very quickly. That's okay. You're driving this for the driving experience and not for a new technology. Straight into the back there. Let's go ahead and take this guy for a spin. Of course, we're in the manual. Nice heavy clutch. Perfect. Absolutely love it. You're in a sports car. You want to feel that clutch feel. You want to feel everything. Hydraulic steering feels good. Shifter feels good. It's nice and solid. Really have to notch it in there. Track is perfect. The track feels really nice. drop down. Hopefully it's not too loud in here. Like I mentioned, we're at 436 horsepower in this one. 424 pound-feet of torque. This beautiful V8 engine sound. All this power without having to deal with the turbo, no turbo lag, anything like that, no rev hang at all. Now in 2012, Chevy only sold just under 12,000 of these, and almost half of them were the Grand Sport. Now, the years before and after, a few years before, a few years after, this is a C6 generation, it was about the same. They sold somewhere between 11 and 13,000 most of the years, and in the end it ended up being that more than half were the Grand Sport. So I don't know if it's the fact that you get the performance features, or if people just like the throwback to the racer days, or what, but this is a step above the base model. This one does not have the magnetic ride, but the ride is actually not bad for something that's in this low, that's made to be a little bit more of a performance car. This thing could definitely be a solid daily. Visibility in here is not awesome. The back window is pretty small. It's pretty tough to see out of. It's probably about on par with 5th gen Camaros. I haven't been in the new one yet, but the 5th gen Camaros definitely have that same kind of visibility problem. The Mustangs, I feel like, are a little bit better, but not. This is, it's livable. It's a trade-off, and I'm totally fine with this trade-off. It's actually only got 7,000 miles on it. Somebody did not drive this too much. That's why the price is still where around $45,000 somewhere. Again, we are in a pandemic, and we're getting towards the end of these internal combustion engines, and I think that people are definitely valuing these things high right now. Valuing sports cars in general, performance cars. Ride here really is not bad. Steering feedback's great. You know, obviously power steering, you can feel it, but it's hydraulic. Feels pretty good. Corners so well. Bumps there. Definitely feel them, but you got these nice big tires. And sport suspension, you know, it's usually sporty suspension's pretty tight, you feel all of that, but it really isn't too bad for something like this. I mentioned the Grand Sport heritage a little bit. So it was actually supposed to be a Le Mans car for 1963, and what happened was they were supposed to produce 125 of them, but they only ended up producing a handful before the whole thing got scrapped. But the engineer, the chief engineer, made sure that the handful that they did produce ended up in the hands of some racers, some private racers. And then he went on and kind of helped develop some other stuff to help private racers kind of turn regular production cars into race cars, which is pretty interesting. And then there was actually a signature edition, there was actually a special edition Grand Sport that came out in 1996, I believe, before they made it back to the C6 version here, where they introduced it as a trim level. This thing's always, you know, obviously it's a heavy car. American muscle tends to be heavy, and this car is no exception. It definitely feels heavy when you're in the lower gears, but it makes you work for it. It sounds so good. It feels good to just bang the gears, you know. And some of these bigger bumps are definitely a little rough. I can imagine some rougher roads, some bigger potholes, you start to run into problems. Then we'll take a look. We got the heads-up display here. I love this layout down here. It's all analog, other than your one little menu there. Get some nice gurbles going there. When you slow it down, it sounds great.